These are the 5 things that I'm worried I'm wrong about going into this NFL season. One of the first things I was taught in sports radio many years ago is don't ever say, oh, I don't know. And so that mentality certainly has found its way through into sports talk very aggressively over the last 5-10 years. And so sometimes we just want to come out and make a definitive statement. This is how this situation is going to go. And I know, like, I can come on here, I can talk very quickly, and I can make it really seem, I can throw out a couple of numbers that a lot of people will recognize, some people won't, but I'll say it very quickly and very impactfully, and it's coming from a large person on here, so it must be having some impact behind it. But there's still some things I'm worried I'm wrong about. So today, we're going to go through the top 5 things I'm worried I'm wrong about going into this NFL season. Honorable mention to the Green Bay Packers having a breakout season this year. I think that with Jordan Love having a full season of health and still having a very talented wide receiver room and a very good running back to work with, I feel like there is a big breakout coming. But if the defensive improvements that I thought I saw from a season ago aren't necessarily there, or if there's an injury problem for Jordan Love, or some of the talent, because there have been some losses there as well, injury-wise, at receiver in Green Bay, if Golden doesn't help replace a few of those things, then maybe that breakout isn't coming. So honorable mention to Green Bay there. But my number 5 thing I'm worried I'm wrong about is the Bengals can't repeat last year's wild offensive production. Last year, the Cincinnati Bengals for fantasy football were an absolute goldmine on both sides, because offensively, it was one of the great offensive teams we've ever seen. Joe Burrow putting up video game numbers. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Brown, all of them, Chase Brown, sorry, all of them, just complete dominance in the fantasy football landscape. And they had a defense that allowed everybody to eat against them. They were glorious. I have multiple concerns when it comes to this. A, that feels just like a difficult way to live in the National Football League. And so they made some moves to try to help this defense out, but obviously the situation with Hendrickson, not ideal. Even the weird holdout thing with Shamar Stewart, the kid they drafted in the first round, seems a little weird. And because they were so focused on that, they weren't focusing on the fact that their meal ticket, their number 1 quarterback, is running for his life more often than he's not behind a very bad offensive line. I don't think they made the necessary adjustments on that O-line. It's great. You got Chase and you got Higgins to throw the ball to. I think Brown's going to have a good year as a running back, but I just don't think that they are going to be able to have one of like the all-time great offensive seasons in the NFL in back-to-back years, given the state of that offensive line. I think you're just asking too much of Joe Burrow. So that is kind of my take. My concern, and where I'm worried I'm wrong about, is just, as the kids would say, Joe Burrow is him. Like, he is very good at this whole quarterbacking thing. And I am banking on something not happening that we just saw last season. Like, this isn't I think there's going to be a breakout or whatever. It's like, I think that thing that we saw 17 times, I think that's a lie. That's where I get a little bit of a concern with, is that I am going against something that has happened already. And so to say it's not going to happen again, I just get a little bit of a, Am I there on that one? We'll see. So that's the number 5 thing that I'm worried I'm wrong about. Number 4 is the fall off in Detroit. I think that the Lions coaching staff, you lost a lot of brain power this year. But I think Ragnow going down on the offensive line, and if you've listened to all the previews so far, and you took a shot every time that I mentioned Ragnow's injury, I'm sorry for your loss, because I've brought it up a lot, but I think it's a big deal. This is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and their Pro Bowl center in the middle of the offseason, not even in the middle of the offseason, 3/4 of the way through the offseason, after they would have had an opportunity to draft or go out and sign someone in free agency, he just up and called it quits. And not saying anything negative about him, because it's his body, it's his life. Go out and do that thing. If you think that you are too beat up or too whatever to continue to play this sport, then don't do that. So I have no ill will against him. I am just saying I think that's a big loss on the interior of an offense with a quarterback who kind of needs everything to be perfect to get these things going. And it's been perfect for a couple of years and it has worked. I just feel like it's too many things going against them this year to have this play out the way that it did the last couple of seasons. Where I'm worried I'm wrong is, again, we've just seen them be good before. And you could have said a lot of these same things about Philadelphia. So much of what they do is based on having one of the best offensive lines in the league. They have a play that teams have tried to get banned based off of shoving the center basically forward with the quarterback behind him. And then they lost one of the best centers of all time. And they just kept running, and then they won the Super Bowl. So I'm worried that the Lions have recovered from this way better than I thought. The, I guess, high-level play that they had on the offensive side wasn't just very good play calling and more on the Jimmies and Joes than the X's and O's coming from Ben Johnson, and then this team steps up and still finds a way to be very good. So that's where I'm concerned I am wrong there. I don't think I am, but that is the one that I'm concerned I am wrong on. At number 3, my worry is that the upgrades the Minnesota Vikings made will not be able to offset the change at quarterback if JJ McCarthy isn't very good. Because right now, I think it is. I think that they have the best receiver in the league. I think they have a pretty good running back room. I think they have a great offensive line, and I think they have a very talented defense and just an incredibly well-coached football team. The only thing you don't love going into this season about the Minnesota Vikings is the quarterback spot. And it's not that they have a bad quarterback, it's just they have one we haven't seen before. My thought is that going into last season, we thought they had a bad quarterback in Sam Darnold. All this, oh, well, Sam Darnold's actually an upgrade over Geno Smith out in Seattle, da-da-da-da-da. We weren't saying that 12 months ago. We were talking about how this is kind of the last chance, and this guy would have been keeping the seat warm if JJ McCarthy hadn't got hurt. So an offensive scheme that was able to get the most out of a quarterback that was seeing ghosts in some other spots now gets this just fresh bit of clay to mold any way they want, with a better roster around than what they had a season ago, while still having all the great minds that led them that way. I am really, really high on the Minnesota Vikings going into this season. And, I mean, it's obvious where this falls apart, is that JJ McCarthy is more Will Levis than he is rookie Joe Flacco. I don't know why that's the pull I made, but you know what I mean, where that year Flacco and Ryan, as rookies, took their teams to the playoffs. It went really well. The concern is that he is just impossibly bad and does irreparable damage to the offense in a way where they can't overcome it. Like that one, that's, again, these first 3, it's pretty easy straight lines to see where it could go wrong. This one, it's obvious. It is just like, okay, well, if he sucks, then they suck. Like, there's just no working around that, even if they have a great roster around it. I think they've insulated it enough that he's going to be fine, but I'm a little worried about that one there. At number 2, the thing I am the second most worried about in the National Football League, we'll get to in just a second. But a reminder that everything is always changing around Couch Potato Diary, so follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Twitter, X, Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, all of it. Check me out over at Primetime Klein. The thing that I am worried about, number 2 on the list, is the offensive breakout that I am presuming will come for the Kansas City Chiefs. This one has a lot to do with fantasy football. I mean, look, all of these have something to do with fantasy football, right? Like, looking at the Bengals situation, I'm a little bit lower on Burrow than others. I'm a little bit lower on Chase than others. I'm quite a bit lower on Higgins than other. I'm still there on Brown a little bit, but still a little bit lower on all of them. And if I'm wrong, then those are some pretty big misses to have. Same thing with Detroit. I'm low. Jahmyr Gibbs was one of my more overvalued players in fantasy football this season. I'm not touching Jared Goff. I think Jameson Williams is a fantastic talent, and just keeper-wise, I have him locked in on a couple of different rosters, but I have some concerns about him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's volume. He's going to be fine, but I have some worries about that. And again, if I am wrong, then those are some pretty big misses that I'm having. While on the Minnesota side, like, again, Justin Jefferson, I have him as the best receiver in football. And I think the offense is still going to be good enough that when Jalen Addison comes back, he's going to be a very valuable member of that roster. Aaron Jones, I think, is going to be good. So again, if McCarthy is just so bad that none of those are usable, then that's a pretty big whiff. And now in Kansas City, I think I'm higher on a lot of these options than a lot of people are. And the main thing about it is Rashee Rice. I know that there is a number one receiver there. I understand that there are some concerns, but I think you look at how well he was starting to play last season, and I know like it wasn't perfect, but when you look at how young this kid is, the gifts that he has, and what he was starting to show, if you just extrapolate that over a 17-game season, then maybe it's not number one wide receiver numbers. But if you factor in any improvement at all, because the kid is still young and really good and in one of the best offensive systems the National Football League's ever seen, then I think you can really see where a number one receiver comes out there. And then when you look at the rest of the roster, you have him as a number one, if you believe that, which I do. You have Xavier Worthy, who's not a number one. Despite what Taylor Swift could be running around celebrating with, he's not a number one. So that just put him in a bad spot last season. What he can be, though, is big over-the-top guy. And so if you are focusing your underneath on Rashee Rice and a safety has an eye down there, then all of a sudden Xavier Worthy is just blowing the top off your defense. Well, that's when Patrick Mahomes in this offense really takes it to another level. And then you have Hollywood Brown as a number three, as an underneath guy, and Travis Kelce, who I am still thinking there's going to be some improvements on from last season. I think that there is going to be a lot of weapons that Mahomes has to choose from. And I think Pacheco is better than a lot of people are assuming that he's going to be based off of seeing him after injury last season. So I am very high on what Kansas City still can be as an offense. The reason I'm worried I'm wrong is that I've been really high on this group, and you can get infatuated with the talent for the last few years. And the fact is, it has been a mid-offense for the last couple of years. Now, they've gotten to Super Bowls. They've won Super Bowls in the past couple of years because the defense is that damn good. But I think from a fantasy perspective, I am really high on a lot of these guys. We did the mock draft from the number one overall spot, and obviously I didn't take Mahomes number one overall, but we ended up with a Mahomes and Rice stack to go along with Jamar Chase as our number one wide receiver. And so with that, I think pretty highly of what Patrick Mahomes in this offense can do. And I think that we are going to see that at a high level this year. But if they are just dink and dunk, let's just survive and advance and move on, then that's going to be a pretty big whiff on my part. And the number one thing that I am worried about for the upcoming NFL season, worried I'm wrong about for the upcoming NFL season, is the improvements I think are coming for the New York Jets. I don't have as much baked in from a fantasy standpoint on these guys. This one is more from a wagering standpoint and from a predictions point of view. But still, I think that this offense and this team, this is still the roster, basically, that people were excited about 12 months ago to see how Aaron Rodgers would do with this team. And I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was very good, and he showed that he wasn't. And everyone just remembers that last game when he was stat hunting to try to get the touchdown mark and forgets just how miserable this season was. I think you have a coach that is going to hold people accountable, which was desperately needed out there. And I believe in the Justin Fields experiment with the New York Jets. I believe that there is a talented quarterback there. I get it hasn't looked awesome in preseason games, and the reports coming out of training camp and the joint practices haven't been awesome. So that's, again, this is an easy one to figure out where this prediction goes wrong. It's that he's just bad. You know, like this offense, the problems, maybe it wasn't all Aaron Rodgers, but this kid isn't good enough to fix whatever those problems were. So that's where I'm worried that I am wrong. But I've brought this team up on basically every preview show. I think people are just forgetting how hyped we were about what they could be last year and how the problems that were there were easily fixable, and I believe have now been fixed. So I just feel like there is a much better season coming for the New York Jets than people are anticipating. But again, if I'm wrong on this one, then this is going to be one of the worst teams in football, and I'm going to have taken a pretty big swing and a miss on this one. So those are the things that I am the most worried about going into the NFL season. Let me know either in the chat if you're watching this live or in the comments below after the fact. If you think I'm out to lunch on any of these, if you think, oh yeah, you're already wrong on this, how dare you? Or what are you worried that you're wrong about? Like a take that you have that's like, you know what, I believe this, but in the back of my mind, ooh, don't love that. Let me know in the comments section.